Hi everyone, welcome to Medicine for the Soul. I'm Sarah. This is your first part of your second trimester prenatal series. Today we are focusing on stretch and strengthening. You'll need all your regular props, so anything that looks like a cushion or a bolster, a couple of blocks, and a folded blanket. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to your second trimester. Hopefully you'll start feeling like you're getting a little bit of energy back. Maybe you'll feel a little more pregnant, start to see your belly, maybe even some movement. So let's get started in our reclined position just to kind of transition to our practice today. And what we're going to be doing is just a second trimester focused stretch and strengthening. But before we get started, let's take a moment to relax. So if you're unfamiliar with this setup, we've got a couple blocks that are gonna support either a bolster or a couch cushion or a couple of firm pillows. Kind of this diagonal line that you can lie back on, just to avoid any unnecessary pressure on our vena cava, our major vein. Take a couple deep breaths to get settled in. Close your eyes. You can have one hand on your heart, one hand on your baby. You can have arms down by your side, palms facing up. Whatever is working for you today. And relax your shoulders, allow your collarbone to fall open. Relax your jaw. Relax your forehead. And just some deep, meaningful breaths in and out through the nose. Maybe sending some love down to your baby, connecting here in this moment, knowing that you're doing this practice together. Let's take one more deep breath here. And on the exhale, open your eyes. Inhale, arms sweep over to the sides and up, stretching up. Nice side body stretch. And now bring your hands back to the mat and push yourself up. We're going to keep our setup here, but we are going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. Bring your legs as wide as is comfortable and take a nice big inhale, nice long spine. And walk your hands forward. Keeping your spine nice and long. We don't want to crunch our baby here or slouch our shoulders. And let's inhale, right arm up, and breathe, gazing up at your right hand. And release down to the mat. Inhale, left arm up, and exhale, gaze towards your hand. And release back down to the mat. Come back to an upright position. Let's just give our wrists some nice stretching here. In one direction and the other direction. You can do your ankles at the same time if you want. And switch direction for your ankles. And stretch your right arm out in front, fingers facing the ceiling or pointing towards the ceiling, And just tug back on your hands a little bit. Maybe get your thumb in there too. Shoulders down and away from the ears, sitting nice and tall. And the other way. Let's shake it out and do it with our left hand. And the other way. And shake it out. Let's come back to lay on our little diagonal here. Bring your feet flat to the mat, knees bent. We're gonna come into a nice figure 4 stretch. So bring your left ankle to your right thigh. You can even push a little bit on your left knee here. Little different sensation, deeper stretch. And release back to the mat. Other side. Hopefully you'll have nice, stretched out, mobile, flexible hips at the end of all of this. One more breath here. And release your foot back to the mat and gently push yourself up. We're going to set our props aside for now. And find a comfortable seated position for you. Nice long spine. Roll your shoulders back and down. Bring your hands to come around into some circles. Just kind of waking up our lower back and our hips. And switch direction. Let's do 2 more times in this direction. And come back to an upright position. We're going to come onto our side. Either side works. So your shoulders over your elbow, and we're staying lifted through our rib cage. So instead of slouching, which is super tempting, we're going to stay lifted through our rib cage. You can press down into the mat for support, and you can keep your bottom leg bent for extra support as well. And your hand can be on your top hip. That's always helpful for me. And we're going to simply lift and lower, staying as stable as we can, building strength gradually. Let's go for 5 more. 1, 2, staying lifted through the rib cage. 3, 4, last one, 5. And bring your knees so that they're stacked on top of each other. We're going to come into clamshells. So bring your top hand onto the mat for support. What we're doing here is we are opening our knees and closing. You can feel it in your glutes back here. Nice core workout as well. Still staying lifted through our rib cage. Let's do 4 more. 1, 2, 3. Starting to feel it a little bit. Last one. 4. And push yourself up. Swing your legs around for the other side. Shoulder over your elbow. Lifting through the rib cage, and extend your top leg out Again, hand on your hip, wherever is comfortable for you. We want to try to remain stable in our pelvis and our core, and lift and lower, lift and lower. You can go faster or slower than me. It's a little bit more effective for strength building to have a more controlled, slower, more mindful movement. Let's do 4 more. 1, 2, 3, last one, 4. And stack your knees for clamshells. Open and close. And again, here we want to stay lifted. Try to remain stable through our core and our pelvis. After this, let's do 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can swing your legs around, coming back to your seated position. We're going to come right onto all 4s. So however you get there, safely and gently. Hips over your knees, shoulders over your wrists. Pushing the mat away from you, staying lifted. Let's come into our cat-cow, remembering to have a little more of a subtle cow. So instead of really sinking in and dropping our belly, we're going to mostly just be trying to beam our chest forward, slight dip on the inhale, and exhale into cat, pushing the mat away from you, giving your baby a nice squeeze. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do 1 more. Inhale. Exhale. And come back to a neutral spine. We're going to bring our right foot forward outside of our right hand. And so from here, gently push off of the mat, bringing yourself into an upright position. Grab your blocks for some stability. We always want stability over mobility. Always want to stay safe. Extend your right leg out so that your toes are pointing towards the ceiling, coming into a little bit of a half split. Make sure your hips are square to the front of your mat. And you can even point your toes back and forward, getting that nice stretch in there. Trying to keep our spines nice and tall. You can sit back a little bit if that feels good. And you can bring your right knee back to the mat. Switching sides. Extend your left leg out. Same thing. And bring your left knee back to the mat. You can put your blocks off to the side for now. Coming back into all 4s here. Extend your left leg back so your toes are tucked. We're staying nice and lifted off of our mat. And reach your right arm out in front. You can stay right here if this works for you. That's great. If you do want more of a challenge, you can lift your left leg off of the mat, or left foot rather, and just breathe. And 1 more breath. and back to the mat. Switching sides, extend your right leg back. Reach your left arm forward. Staying right here if this works for you today. If you want more of a challenge, lifting your right foot off of the mat, pointing your toes. And breathe. One more breath. And back to the mat, taking your knees wide, coming into a child's pose. Forehead to the mat, reaching for the top of the mat, imagining your tailbone reaching down towards the mat, getting a nice stretch. One more breath here. Lift your forehead off of the mat. Coming back into all fours briefly. Tucking your toes on an inhale. Exhale, pushing your hips up and back. Into downward facing dog. Pedaling your feet out if that feels good. Really lifting those hips up and back, pushing the mat away from you. Let's do one more breath here. And then on your next inhale, look forward. Exhale, step forward into a forward fold, being mindful of maybe needing to take a little bit of a wider stance here, keeping soft knees. And you can dangle here, shaking your head out, nodding your head, and slowly coming up on an inhale. Arms reach up, and exhale. I'm going to turn to face you now. So let's take our feet into a wide stance, toes pointing out to the corners of your mat, really feeling tall in your spine here, shoulders back and down. Almost feel like you're giving your baby a squeeze and a lift up. So our core muscles are nice and strong. And we want to inhale, come down. Maybe you're reaching your arms overhead into a little plie. Exhale, come back up, squeezing your mat. So imagining drawing your heels together. Inhale. Exhale, drawing your heels together, feeling your inner thighs work. Imagine you're moving through two panes of glass, so we're nice and tall here. Inhale on your way down. Exhale, lifting, lifting, lifting. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale. And exhale, drawing those heels together. Last one, inhale. And exhale. And you can point your toes forward, maybe heel toe your feet back together a little bit. I'm going to turn to face the top of my mat. You can as well. And let's inhale, arms out in front. Exhale into a chair pose. Let's just hold here for a moment and breathe. In and out through the nose. Look down, make sure you can still see your toes. And on your next exhale, forward fold hands to the mat, step back into downward facing dog. Let's stay here for 2 more breaths. 1. 2. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step forward. We're going to forward fold, nice soft knees. Inhale, rise up. All the way up. And exhale into Tadasana. We're going to inhale, arms out in front again. Exhale, back into chair pose. Remembering to check and make sure you can still see your toes. We're going to hold here. While we're here, option, this is an option, you don't have to do this, but we're going to lift our heels and lower. You can do 1 at a time, or you can do 2 at a time. Remembering stability over mobility. I want you to be safe and secure and happy. So however that looks for you today in this pose, that is wonderful. Remembering to keep your shoulders down and away from your ears. Let's do 2 more breaths here. 1. 2. Let's do another inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Step back into downward facing dog. Nice deep breaths here. Let's do 2 more breaths. 1. 2. Let's bring our knees to the mat, coming back into all fours. Fingers spread nice and wide. And from here, we're going to come into a fire hydrant. So we're going to be lifting our leg out to the side, just like a dog does near the fire hydrant. I don't know if they do that in real life, but in cartoons they do. Okay, so we're staying nice and lifted through our shoulders, lifting through our core. We're going to try to remain as stable as we can as we lift out to the side, starting on one side, doesn't matter which one. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's do 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great job. Let's switch sides, checking in with yourself. Do I feel stable? Am I lifting myself off of the mat? And go for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job. Let's take our knees wide, making room for your belly if you're starting to show. Reach for the top of the mat. Forehead comes down to the mat. And let's just take a moment to breathe. option for child's pose if this is uncomfortable for your belly or any other reason. You can take blocks and bring your forearms to the blocks. You can still get that nice stretch in your hips. Let's lift our foreheads off of the mat. Coming back into all fours. Inhale, tuck the toes. Exhale, push up and back into downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up and back. Exhale, coming into half pigeon, so right knee towards your right wrist. Lowering your left leg down. Scooting back, getting comfortable and settled here. Again, grabbing your blocks for support. You can rest your forearms on your block. You can put a block underneath your right hip or a folded blanket. Let's take one more deep breath here. And placing your hands on the mat. Right leg up and back. And exhale into downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg up and back. Same thing, different side. One more deep breath here. And you can set your blocks aside for the moment and lift your left leg up and back. And exhale back to the mat. Bring your knees to the mat. If you've been taking the prenatal course so far, you kind of know what's coming up. We're going to tuck our toes and sit back on our heels in toes pose. Again, this is our stamina practice right here as far as prenatal yoga goes. Gonna roll our shoulders back and down, nice and tall, spine. And close your eyes. I say stamina practice because this is a great meditative practice that you can do before birth. As far as how do I get when I'm uncomfortable, what happens in my body when I'm inconsistent, either pain or uncomfortable physical position, and a great pose to use when you're practicing your breathing exercises. So using an ujjayi breath or just a steady, calm, mindful breath in and out through the nose. reminding yourself to relax your facial muscles, to release your jaw. One more breath here. On your exhale, you can flutter your eyes open gently and slowly. Come onto your hands and tap out your toes. And coming into a seated position, grab your folded blanket. Mine's kind of a mess right here, but it'll work. As the load you're carrying, as your pregnancy gets heavier, it might feel better to sit up on a bolster or blanket just to have some elevation in your hips. So actually, let's bring the soles of our feet together. If this feels uncomfortable for you, you can put some blocks underneath your knees. And take a nice deep breath here. And let's inhale, both arms up. At the top, left hand grabs your right wrist. Exhale over to the left, gazing right. And back to center and release. Inhale, arms up again. Opposite side. Exhale over to the right and gaze left. And back to center. And shake it out a little bit. Do a couple of shoulder rolls. We're going to come into our final resting pose, our Shavasana. And I don't include the Shavasana here in our practice because I want you to take a really long Shavasana. It's especially important during pregnancy to have that moment where your practice sinks in, where your body can just sit and relax and kind of absorb the movements that you've just but I will show you the options for Shavasana. So it's the same as when we started with our little reclined position right here. The other option is to lie on your left side. We want to lay on our left side during pregnancy, and to have your bolster between your knees and use your arm or folded blanket for a pillow, or you can place a folded blanket right under your belly if you need some support. So those are your options. I hope you take a nice long rest. Thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on your second trimester, and I will see you soon.